Welcome to the show. In this edition, the new development goals that have just been adopted by world leaders at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Just another set of aspirations on paper. How different are they from Millennium Development Goals? Are they a bridge to a better future? And do they mean anything to you?
We can take pride in what we've accomplished, but we cannot be complacent.
Can you imagine? My best friend, her mother told her not to play with me just because of my HIV status. And that makes me feel bad.
That's just a teaser of the show, the 12th edition, a special edition right from New York City. But before we proceed, here are some sights and sounds from the magnanimous city.
Flatbush Avenue is the main avenue.
If you've just joined us, we are discussing the new development goals known as Sustainable Development Goals. How different are they from Millennium Development Goals? Are leaders ready to speak with one voice to eradicate poverty from the globe? What is the new strategy? The United Nations was the global attention grabber this week. The headquarters was busy, with world leaders gathering here to rethink how to tackle poverty and slash inequality. Kenya, firmly among the UN members. The fire department on standby for any eventuality. The police all alert to enforce order. The media in full swing to inform the world. And the news is out the Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs, and in the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. MDGs were adopted 15 years ago to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, among other issues. But now the language will be Sustainable Development Goals, and the question is, what is the difference?
If there are any really big differences between the MDGs and the SDGs, I'd say the first one is universality, is that it's about everyone now. We're not just talking about a region or another, or north to south. We're saying that all of us have issues that we need to address because whatever happens in one part of the world will have an effect in the other. And we've seen it with climate change, we've seen it with the global financial crisis, with migration, with inequalities that breed instability and conflict. All of this is interrelated. So you cannot say you're an island and you're okay. You're not okay.
The MDGs were 8 in number, while the SDGs are 17. These were the 8 Millennium Goals: to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, to achieve universal primary education, to promote gender equality, to reduce child mortality, to improve maternal health, to combat HIV/AIDS, malaria and other diseases, to ensure environmental sustainability, and to develop a global partnership for development. So were the goals achieved? Analysts say there have been tremendous achievements in poverty reduction, but inequalities within nations and among nations are worrying as the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen.
The 2030 Agenda compels us to look beyond the national boundaries and short-term interest and act in solidarity for the long term. We can no longer afford to think and work in silos. Institutions will have to become fit for purpose and grant new purpose.
Globally, the number of people living in extreme poverty has declined by more than half, from 1.9 billion in 1990. However, 836 million people out of a global population of about 7 billion still live in extreme poverty, that is about 12%, and about 1 in 5 persons in developing regions lives on less than $1.25 per day, or converted in Kenyan shillings, about 125 shillings per day. That is the World Bank below poverty line yardstick.
We can take pride in what we've accomplished, but we cannot be complacent. When 11 boys and girls die every single minute from preventable causes, we know we have more work to do. When hundreds of women die every single day just from having a baby, we know we have more work to do. When tens of millions of children are still not in school, when hundreds of millions of people have no clean water, no toilets, we have so much more to do. Right now, some 800 million men, women, and children are scraping by on less than $1.25 a day. Imagine that. Gripped by the ache of an empty stomach. Billions of our fellow human beings are at risk of dying from diseases that we know how to prevent. Many children are just one mosquito bite away from death. And that is a moral outrage. It is a profound injustice. It is literally a matter of life and death. And now, the world must act. We cannot leave people behind. And so today we commit ourselves to new sustainable development goals, including our goal of ending extreme poverty in our world.
In Kenya, there has been some improvement, but not much for trumpet blowing. 15 years ago, about a half of Kenyans lived below the national poverty line. By the year 2009, the figure had reduced to 45.5%, which means out of a population of 45 million Kenyans, about 20 million need to be uplifted from poverty. The primary education net enrollment rate improved from 67.8% in the year 2000 to about 96% in the year 2013. However, critics say the quality of education has become poor due to poverty, lack of facilities, and inequitable distribution of teachers, among other factors. Completion rate increased from 57.7% in 2000 to about 83% in the year 2009 and has remained within the 80% range.
Within countries, rural poverty remains unacceptably high, while urban poverty is extensive and underreported by traditional indicators.
Still in Kenya, when it comes to MDG goal number 5 of improving maternal health, Kenya's First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, told a gathering at the UN that Kenya failed to meet the goal.
Maternal mortality as an MDG goal performed poorly and in some cases witnessed a reversal in progress. By focusing on maternal health, a whole range of development dividends are projected that are likely to support and complement the realization and attainment of proposed post-2015 agenda goals. Thus, in this new era, more concerted efforts will be required to ensure that girls and women are at the heart of development.
The lessons that we learned was that countries really having prescriptions not the way to go. Halfway measures is not the way to go. So if we were building clinics in order to look at the issues of maternal mortality, we did not have, with the MDGs, looking at health systems that will provide the health resources, both human and otherwise, to make sure that those gains were sustained and they were not just a one-off investment.
So the key point is the approach towards fulfilling the MDGs was not sustainable, hence new sustainable development goals. world leaders have now agreed to look into the challenges that exist as shared problems to be solved through shared visions and shared resources.
In order to build effective, inclusive, and accountable institutions at all levels, we have to ensure that the voices of the developing countries and regions are heard and that they are treated as equal partners in multilateral decision-making. At the international level, we need urgent reform of the United Nations, particularly the Security Council and other multilateral institutions, to reflect the current geopolitical realities.
But I visited Africa recently, and what I saw gave me hope, and I know should give you hope, because that continent has made impressive gains in health and education. It is one of the fastest growing regions of the world with a rising middle class. And during my travels, Africans, especially young Africans, tell me they don't just want aid, they want trade. They want businesses. They want investment. So I call on the world to join us as we mobilize billions of dollars in new trade and investment and development in Africa. And that includes Power Africa, our initiative to bring electricity and greater opportunity to more than 60 million African homes and businesses. If we get Africa fulfilling its full potential, that will help the entire global economy. Everyone here will be helped. It's not a zero-sum game. We are invested in their success.
Still to come.
Can you imagine? My best friend, her mother told her not to play with me just because of my HIV status. And that makes me feel bad.
Right after the break.